Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Here are tonight's main stories.
But first, there's anguish tonight for three South Yorkshire families whose lives have been torn apart by the deaths of their sons in a car crash.
The three teenagers, an 18-year-old and two 19-year-olds, died when the car they were in careered off the road into a wall and ended up embedded in a tree at Kiverton Park near Rotherham last night.
The grandfather of one of those who died has told Calendar how he'd celebrated the young man's birthday with him just last week. John Hill has the story.
Next tonight, it fears that a nurse shortage in the region could continue to get worse despite a planned investment of nearly £6 billion for the NHS, which is expected in the Chancellor's budget on Wednesday.
Yes, Rishi Sunak's autumn budget strategy has been mostly leaked over the weekend, with the huge NHS spend being made available for physical items such as beds, IT equipment and scanners.
But it's staff at the sharp end of frontline services that are really needed, with one nurse leader saying they simply can't stave off departures from the profession anymore. Katy Oscroft has been to see how one trust in East Yorkshire is casting its net far and wide to find a solution. A little earlier I spoke to Paul Wood, the interim regional director for the RCN in the north, about the vacancy gap, with many nurses indicating they may actually still leave the profession, and asked him what it means for those on the wards. And you can see more about this story as well as the rest of today's news on some news in brief now. And a free shuttle bus has started operating again in Lincoln to take patients for COVID vaccinations at the showground. There are plans for millions of pounds to be spent upgrading leisure centres and swimming pools in Doncaster.
Next night, to a possible significant breakthrough for homeowners whose lives and, more importantly, house sales have been blighted by the dreaded plant, the Japanese knotweed.
Well, for decades, the plant, with astonishingly strong roots, has held up deals going through because of the effects it could have on the home itself and its foundations. And cases are still on the rise in South Yorkshire.
And now a study is offering new advice for surveyors that could be a game changer. Kevin Ashford has the story. A lot of people would be really interested if that changes the advice for surveyors, wouldn't it?
I know, it's not happened to me, but I've heard a lot of people have problems with households. And the fact that you're saying it in volcanoes.
Grows, yeah, that's where it originates from in Japan, because it's got such strong roots.
Well, there you go.
Every night's a school.
Get your house on the market, never mind the knotweed.
Exactly. ITV Evening News continues at 6:30 with Mary.
Thanks for that, Mary. Now it's time for the sport.
Well, Chris is with us in the studio this evening. Good evening. And there would be bottom. If it wasn't for Derby, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple in our region from me, because I'm running out of breath now.
Well done, no,
to get in there.
Good effort, mate.
More positive news, well done.
We need more positive news, don't we?
We do. A nice story next, actually. Next tonight, there are calls for more options for disabled children and adults when it comes to dressing up for Halloween.
Yeah, we all know how hard it is just to come up with ideas and make them possible, but campaigners say adapted fashion, that's clothing specially created for disabled people, is severely limited and often quite expensive.
Well, now Sheffield's Tobias Weller, better known, of course, to you and me as the fundraiser Captain Tobias, wants everyone to be able to access fancy dress costumes and enjoy celebrations like Halloween. Catherine Walker has the report. You had your eye on that pumpkin there, didn't you?
Well, I'm half dressed as a pumpkin anyway, aren't I?
I wasn't going to mention that, obviously.
But I was just thinking it must be so hard. I'm trying to get mine sorted actually for next week.
Yeah.
And it's difficult enough scrolling through all the stuff and
can't wait to see that next Monday then after Sunday.
I'll keep it on for the whole weekend.
Lovely.
Finally tonight to Sheffield, where the city's first African-Caribbean market opened today.
Yes, there have been stalls, live performances taking place, and throughout this week, artwork will be going on display, plus stories shared by members.
Absolutely
see that food.
I know. We'll both be sat there drooling.
It's at tea time now.
It is. The weather first.
All right.
Kerry. Well, that's it from us. Our next update is at 10:30.
The national and international stories are coming up next with Mary Nightingale.
But for now, from all the team here on Calendar, thanks ever so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Good night.